I do have the coolest job. I agree with that.
Agreed.
Particularly this
Agreed.
week. This week is like so fun. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't be talking. You're supposed to be talking.
All right.
Sorry, Matt. How's everybody doing? Good. Yeah?
It feels very morning in here. It feels very morning crowd.
Who are Eagles fans?
Let's go, Birds!
Birds, yeah. What about the Chiefs?
I mean, 3-peat would be cool.
Okay, this same thing happened yesterday. I don't know what's going on. Right? Chiefs, yesterday
there
too. There were
no Chiefs yesterday.
No Taylor Swift fans here either?
Of course there's Taylor Swift fans here.
Now I got a few there. Okay. All right.
I'm just going to let these guys go.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to say.
All right, Matt. Sorry. Take over.
I'm Matt Andrews with Highmark TechSystems. Totally on the physical activation side, we build double decks and outdoor structures and indoor structures for brand activation. So super thrilled to be here with these two gentlemen. I always start every session with good news. And so I'm going to give everybody their good news for the day. And it's that first, we get to talk to these guys. And second, the HVAC is kind of working better in here, right? So I was going to go full-on Bert Kreischer out here and just go bare-chested, moderator, but I'll spare you with all that. So
There's still time, Matt. So
yeah, I'm starting to heat up. So let's dive in. First question. Okay, so a lot of us in our individual respective markets will refer to, as a cliche, our big end of the year event is our Super Bowl. So I think the fair question here is, since your big of the end of the year event, Tim, is the actual frickin' Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Super Bowl. How's it going? And is there anything you can let us in on to start out with?
Well, yeah, we might. I don't know. The let us in on question, we'll have to think about that one. For us, this is not the end of our fiscal year, but it's the sort of the end of our year. We worked so hard to get this point. And of course, we're always like driving from kickoff down into Super Bowl. We're continuing to drive programs that are like our key initiatives. And for the NFL right now, our international expansion is a really important area of focus. And if you watched our ad last year for the Super Bowl, you saw we went all the way to Ghana because we have a development center there for players, player pathway program. And so we focused on that. This year, we're focusing our Super Bowl commercial on flag football, girls flag football, more specifically, the momentum around girls flag football. So we have been working very hard, and our partners here, 72andSunny, have done a great job together with us. And it really, the old adage, it takes a village. If you think about all the partners we have on a local basis around flag, if you think about all the ambassadors, not just in the U.S., but around the world, around driving, particularly girls flag, but flag in general. And then the IOC, we just got flag football into the Olympics recently this last year. So there's a lot of momentum, a lot of things happening. And so for us to take the opportunity at the biggest moment of the year for us to focus on something that we think is really important, it will be flag football. So we now have 15 states that are sanctioned as girls varsity flag.
Woo, that's up from 13 like 3 days ago.
Yeah, and exactly. Just 2 in the last week, 100% increase in just the last year, right? And that's really satisfying and important to us because participation in football is the best way to get somebody to be a fan. You guys are all probably have your own KPIs and areas of focus of driving your audiences. Well, for us and our audience, it's really how do we expand the NFL, right? How do we get more people into as avid fans? And so our core targets are women, right? Girls and women, Latinos, and essentially young people, right? So with this big push for girls flag, obviously you're hitting 2, right, of those targets, and we're very excited. We have a big piece of creative. We're going to show you this morning some teasers on it, and Glenn will talk about it. But suffice to say that everything's going in the right direction. We're very pleased and excited about the momentum of the growth of our fan base and our perceptions around the NFL, which is of course also important. So we're feeling very good and confident about where we are this week.
Nice.
Does anyone here have a daughter, a niece, family member, friend who plays flag football?
There you go.
Okay, that's like almost half the room. So hopefully this will speak to you. They will be our ambassadors.
Glenn is going to tease or cue up a sizzle reel here in a second. But before that, something I learned about these two gentlemen this week was they've worked together for an extremely long time, almost 14 years. So the question to both of you is, how, give us a little bit of history about that. And then, how have you been able to maintain that relationship over 14 years?
You want to know if we're still friends?
Yes.
We are.
We're very solidly friends.
Listen, I used to be on the agency side for 12 years, I guess, and worked with some great agencies both in the U.S. and abroad. And the reason I got into this business was because I just loved the creativity, right? I love that sort of commercial and art coming together, and to be able to do it in a way to where it really entertained people and made them think differently about the brand and really enjoyed taking in the communication was important to me. So I've had the fortune of working at some of the strongest creative organizations in the world. And so when I became a client, that was important for me, right? And so it was by no accident that the places that I went to work as a client were places where advertising and marketing were very important, right? It meant that you could actually significantly change the outcome of the business by having high creativity. So ultimately when I came to Activision, which is where I met Glenn, I felt like I wanted to find the best and the brightest out there to bring in. We had Call of Duty, we had a lot of big franchises there. And so I threw a pitch, right? And these guys were still, no, you weren't that big at that point, right? You were still relatively like a medium.
We've always been the best agency in the world, but carry on.
Yeah, well, whatever. You guys were strong, but you weren't like a huge agency. But when I met Glenn, I knew immediately, just by talking to him, before I even saw the work, I knew immediately, just by talking to him, that he sort of got it, right? And that we had the same language, we had the same vision when it came to creativity and how strategy and human insight and all that come together with great creativity. So we started working together. They just knocked it out of the park, the first pitch that they had. And you've been in a couple since then. And so we had a great track record, and we're really close to things that we did. And our teams working closely together in a very collaborative way at Activision. And then when I went to NFL, lo and behold, I did another pitch. And again, you guys just completely knocked it out of the park. In fact, one of the ideas that they delivered on the pitch level was the one that we did for the 100-year celebration of the NFL. How many of you guys have seen that spot? Pretty good spot, right? Yeah.
That was fun.
Pretty killer. Yeah. And these guys, it was literally within their pitch for the thing. So I knew I never hire an agency if they don't have work that I want to run immediately. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to have a pitch and then hire an agency where you wouldn't run at least some of the work that they showed you. And it was a massive piece of work. It had like over 60 players in it. And Glenn's like, well, this is awesome, but we don't have time to do that for the Super Bowl. I'm like, sure you can. Yeah. He's like, no, we can't do that. There's no way. We can do it for the kickoff for next season, but we can't do it in
December.
time.
You were telling me that in December.
We'll do it. Well, yeah, in December. So, well, we can do it. We can do it. So we did, and it turned out to be literally one of the best pieces of work I've ever done in my career, and certainly one of the best pieces of work at the NFL.
Can I build on that a little bit? Well, when we first met, and this is a very unique relationship in my career, but when we first met, my first impression was, this is a creative human being in a marketer's role. And so all of our conversations, either in the boardroom and then quickly outside the boardroom, were about how to move people, sharing your favorite work, my favorite work. It was the things that move people most profoundly and in the biggest possible moments on the biggest possible stages. And we committed to each other at that point for Call of Duty. Well, that's what we're going to try and do here for as long as they'll have us. And that's how we restarted the NFL relationship. We're like, well, we're going to have a few beats a year where more people are watching than anything we've ever done, and either of us. Let's move people as deeply as possible, whether that's joy and laughter or a cry, or actually at the beginning of every one of these projects for the Super Bowl, we sit down and talk about what our ambitions are for the year and what's going on in the zeitgeist and what can the NFL, what can we do for the sport or for the country or for the world. And I usually end it saying, so is this more of like a hell yeah or like a heartstrike, like make you cry and make you fucking go hell yeah? And Tim always says, well, both, obviously. So that's hard. But
getting the chills as a brief is actually a good brief.
Yeah.
Right. And I think these guys consistently deliver on that. But I want to move people emotionally. I mean, the message is obviously very important, but moving people in a very emotional way to where it really goes deep, I've just found that it really not only makes you memorable, but it sticks. right? It really sticks with you. It makes you think differently about the brand or the product, whatever you're promoting there. And I just, it's been something that I think together we've identified, and the way that we work with our teams, we find a way to kind of just get there as partners. People
do ask me, what is Tim's feedback? Like, what's a marketer like Tim give his feedback to his agency? And he does have he has one consistent phrase, whether it's a Super Bowl ad where the emotion is expected, or some of our more transactional work. Sometimes we're doing things for NFL Shop or something else, but it's almost always make it more emotional. And that used to really frustrate me because it's a very open thing, and there was never more to it. Sometimes just fucking more emotional. That would be the build on it. And I have found that to be so liberating and actually very directional. I actually just get ahead of it now with our teams. And I think that's the secret to all your work, whether it was with us or not. And hopefully the work you see that we've done together. That seems like a good cue for the show. There's a 2-minute show reel here. We're gonna play it.
There's no fans like football fans. There's no game like this game. And there ain't no time like game time.
Hey, Mac, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm at the Super Bowl. Tune in, it's about to start.
I'm here with world champion Deanna Flores.
Yeah.
Housekeeping.
Welcome to the table read for the 104th season of the NFL.
I thought this was a dress rehearsal.
To infinity.
Where the love go?
And beyond.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
1,809 receiving yards.
Whose son is this?
Let your tongue show. Where the love go?
He calls that dance the gritty.
What if we replaced the gritty with the sexy Dexy?
Let your tongue show.
Rip it.
Rip. 5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
Mafia style. Nice.
Sports is an amazing platform to help others. Everyone deserves an opportunity to be represented.
Everybody is a role model.
This year's recipient of the Pat Tillman Award for Service, the training staff of the Buffalo Bills.
I feel like a failure every day.
No one wants to be my friend. These are the stories of kids struggling with mental health. So the NFL is working to give them the tools to create healthier relationships.
I heard you're a huge Chiefs fan, man.
But just so you know,
We see you.
we see you.
Who got my back? We got your back. Who got my back? We got your back.
Bitch better have my money.
Aiming at your head.
It's
like a
really
buffalo.
swag.
You're a roughneck. I'm a cutthroat. You're a tough guy. It's enough jokes.
Bring it, little man.
Please, he's in trouble.
That's on you, bro. Besides,
I'm not even real.
Where the love go? 5, 4, 3, 2, where the ones go? If she's iffy, there the drugs go. If she's simply double cup toast, got a duffel full of hundos, there the love go. Where's the up go?
We're back.
The Emmy goes to Super Bowl 57. Run with it.
I don't bluff, bro. Aiming at your head like a buffalo.
you can get your favorite Chiefs player's jersey, too. And yeah, you can get his. Everyone gets his.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
I did not see this coming.
I know. Just think of the memes. You can't make this stuff up.
That's great. Obviously, some huge moments. So the question to you guys is, how do you create that moment? What's that process? What's your role as storytellers here?
First of all, when we presented the ballroom spot, and there was a little clip in there of Christian McCaffrey in there, but I remember we had comped a picture of a big cake with a gold football, and I said, dude, that's the idea. This is going to be amazing. And I remember your face, you're like, okay, go on. And then by the end, great. But that was like just with an image. And I just share that because sometimes our goal is to elicit an emotional response from him and his team, and in case with Tim, as a friend. Like, doesn't this excite you? And not try to get too presentationally about it, although we have a presentation, their strategies, but, you know.
Yeah, I don't like selling. I don't like selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said friend.
It doesn't hit me well. You know, like,
nobody wants to be sold.
No, I don't like to be sold. I like confidence. I mean, of course I like confidence, and if you're excited about an idea, I want to hear it. but I've never liked that. Like, not even as an account guy, I just couldn't do it. Because I like a level of honesty about it. You know what I mean? So like, I think what you asked the question, well, what makes it work? How do you guys do this kind of work on a consistent basis? Because I do think with all, you know, I think that the work that we've done has been very consistent. I think the quality of the work has been consistent. I think the strategy has been consistent, which I'm proud of. And I think the way that we get there is through a lot of honesty, a lot of transparency, being willing to say, oh, I fucking love that, or oh no, sorry, I hate that. You know, like, but he doesn't get, he or his team, they don't get defensive about it. They don't like feel like, oh, you know, you don't appreciate us because you don't like something. They want to know, do you like it? Do you not like it? If you don't like it, tell us why. And if you don't know why, you just don't like it, you just emotionally, you just don't like it, then that's okay too. There's always another idea. And I think that's a really important thing of like being able to, of course you should fight for things you believe in, but be able to walk away from something that to like, you know, if you both love it, it's going to be bigger and better than ever before, as opposed to trying to shove it down somebody's throat and like manipulate them into liking something. When you create something together where you feel like, no, this is going to be awesome. Let's just help each other make it better. And he and I work like not only in the early phases of strategically where should we go, but like I'm also in the edit room. I just came back from LA where we were finishing the editing and the sound work for the commercial that we're going to run in a few days. And that's just part of the process that I love. I mean, we work very closely. He listens to what I say, I listen to what he says, and ultimately with that level of respect and trust, we end up in a very good place.
It's very, you know, it takes time to build the trust. Obviously, the high trust relationship is what makes this work. We've had the benefit of a decade. I do tell staff on our side, or anybody who asks me, you know, who tend to think about jumping from job to job every year or two, like what's the value of staying or doing the same thing over and over. And I think that is the value, because if you stick in a relationship, in any relationship in your life, whether it's business or not.
Your wife's here, Glenn. I'm sorry.
I see that. Go Jen Cole. More than a year or two, that's when you can really unlock something special. And so I think you can't just wish time. You can wish that time will be on your side, but you can make the choice to just stick it out with a partner. And one of my favorite things about my relationship with Tim today is that when we do agree probably 98% of the time on things, there is 1 or 2% where we disagree. And it gets super, super uncomfortable for both our teams. They call it what the parents are arguing, and we're kind of, and we look like it. We're like, oh, I'm over in the corner, like fucking, and he's like, Glenn, oh, how could you say that? But nobody feels like the business is in jeopardy. Nobody feels like this is going to be like, well, we got to like make things right, send an account person in. In fact, I'm really happy about those moments. I think it shows like you can really kind of violently disagree, but we trust that the best thing will float to the top. And that's hard to create that environment, but we work really hard and with our teams to encourage them to be like, look, when they give feedback, it's not about you, it's about this thing. It's very hard in our business to separate yourself from the thing you're making.
And I think the openness and transparency and the understanding of things that are not just about that idea or not even just about the marketing. Like I let these guys know what's going on at the NFL. Like I let them know what is driving, like what am I dealing with? What am I worried about? What are we doing in our board meetings? What's the bigger picture around the NFL and their business? And then how does this kind of relate or fit in? And the same thing, if like there's something going on at 72 that I need to be aware of, or that helps me understand them better, then I want to know. I mean, I want to understand that. It doesn't even have to be about the NFL. It could be about something else going on that's important for me to understand them, right? So I think that openness and that ability to really have good, strong, deep discussions about anything that might impact, you know, how you go about your day, how you go about focusing on your work is important, because it all adds up to something that creates a stronger, more trusting relationship.
Right. So the follow-up on that is you're trying to manage this enormous moment. You know, you're trying to light certain people up. I'm sure that you're thinking about in your market. So I think for marketers in the room, you know, what are the pitfalls that you could fall into when you have an idea and going down a certain road to be aware of as they're thinking through an idea?
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, an idea should continue to get better in the development, right?
And in the production.
And in the production. So, although once you get in the production, then you're kind of screwed, right? Because you can't go back. But you can go back if you're in development. And I think that having the courage to put something aside, even though you've invested a lot of time in it, is really important. We've a few times, not often, but a few times we've had big and ton of pressure, like a Super Bowl ad or whatever. We've been working on it for a while. We've even had partners in who are going to help produce it and so forth. And the idea is just not getting better. In fact, every time we do another round or something, it's getting worse. And so we've had some discussions like, we got to put this thing away, put this thing down and go after something else. And it's kind of scary to do that because, you don't have a lot of time left. But the times that we've done it, the work has been outstanding, and we ended up in a much better place. And so I think having the courage to say yes to something which feels a little scary, but ultimately it can be really big and powerful. So being able to have the guts, I suppose, to go for a big idea, which definitely could go the wrong direction, but then at the same time, being willing to actually put something down and start over when you see something's not going in the right direction is both, I think, really, really important.
Amen. Also, I think the us, I call it us versus themism, is the other threat. When you find yourself, it's the agency and the client, and there's a side of the table. Has anybody here seen? Is it Apollo 13? Okay, well, for those who haven't and those who did, there's a scene there where they pull all the engineers into a room. There's a table in the middle of the room. They dump a bunch of shit in the table, and they're like, we got to figure out how to use all this to create one of these in whatever amount of time, or these guys die. And that's the kind of the way we organize ourselves as a unified team, the NFL marketing team and the 72andSunny team. There's everybody mix and match chairs. There's an opportunity or a problem, and we put it in the middle of the table, and now we're going to try to bring to bear all of our intelligence on it. And there are times in the process, in ideating, in pre-production and production, where you can start to slide back to, we show a thing and then you respond, and it goes from the youngest person to the oldest person responding to the work, and it gets a little us versus themist. And I think we try to constantly bring it back to everyone around one table and point to the thing and break that habit when you notice it creeping in, break that muscle memory.
Right, and to be honest, I think now that we do so much of our work on Zoom, that becomes harder.
It's tough.
You know what I mean? On the one hand, Zoom allows people to have their moment to speak, and anybody. And my philosophy on my team is that I don't care what your level of person of your in the company you are. I want to know what you think. I want to hear what you think, and be open about that, and be truthful, and be obviously constructive and helpful, but I want to know, because I think all the input really makes the ideas in the production or the initiative better. But with Zoom, on the one hand, you can get that, but on the other hand, it feels like you don't have the same intimacy, right? It's kind of weird, right?
It's harder.
It is harder.
Everybody knows it's harder. Yeah.
I always like it better when you're together, when you're together working.
We're talking at the same time right now. We can do that. Zoom, you cannot.
Exactly. Talk over each other. Yeah.
Glenn, I can't believe you used the Apollo 13 analogy. My colleague at the back of the room uses it.
You really lit up. So I'm like, you've used that one before. All right, there we go.
And now I'm never going to hear the end of it.
It really works.
These two and their teams generally produce 2 Super Bowl spots every year. I'm going to ask Glenn to kind of tee those up a little bit. The history of them and what the two they're doing, and we're going to take a look as well.
Okay, well, part of we saw it as a headline in that video, the helmets off strategy that we've been working with, that Tim codified when he first started, and we've been trying to execute together for 7 years, comes to a head this Sunday, like it does every Sunday. And we have 2 initiatives. We do a piece that focuses on the NFL's relationships with organizations that are doing something in the area of social goods, social justice, mental wellness, or other. And we choose that based on what the priorities are for the organization, and also what's happening in the zeitgeist, what we think is needed out there. That tends to be a more, I guess you would say, emotional piece. By intentionally. And then we have another piece which is really of course, we're trying to reach, there's 200 million people who are going to watch it. We want everybody to love it, but there's an audience within the audience of our growth audience that Tim mentioned earlier that we really want to spark. People who are only watching one football game a year, it's this one. We want them to fall in love with the game. It's our Joy of Football piece. The ballroom spot was one of those. But we try to load it with enough stuff that core folks like us, me, Tim, football fans would recognize, little Easter eggs that point to football moments in history or put some of the players in there. So we're doing that again this year. This year we released our cause piece in the conference championships because, well, first of all, we had it done, which is incredible. But we were getting a great response internally. It's the first time I ever saw a piece of work when I first went into an edit and I had nothing to say. I just stood up and started clapping. So that was my feedback to the team. Tim gave me his version of that separately. That's going to air again this Sunday. And then we have our big blockbuster. It's a 2-minute ad that's going to come after the Kendrick Lamar halftime show that is pure joy of football, as Tim says, focused on women's girls flag football, specifically high school. So our drive is we're going to try to use this platform to get the other 35 states on board. And then, we'll go from there. Once 50 states are on board, other great things can happen. But I think we have the cause spot. We're going to show that. If you were here yesterday, it's a repeat. And then we're going to show you a couple teasers for the Joy of Football one.
All right, ready, guys? You guys got to be loud, though, okay?
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, repeat after me.
Yes, sir.
I am somebody.
Somebody.
I may be young.
I may be young,
But I am. Somebody.
somebody.
I may be small,
I may be small.
but I am.
But I am. Somebody.
My clothes are different.
My clothes are different.
My face is different.
My face is different.
My hair is different.
My hair is different.
But I am.
But I am
Somebody.
Somebody.
I must be respected.
I must be respected.
Protected.
Protected.
Never rejected.
Never rejected.
But I am.
I am.
Somebody.
Somebody.
I am. Somebody. I am. Somebody. I am. Somebody. I am.
Somebody.
As you can see, shot here in New Orleans. Yeah.
It's a little dusty in here. Should we play the other one too? Just have the full kit? Yeah. Do you want to talk about the spot on the way into it?
Yeah. So, well, one thing I will mention, like, people often ask me, like, what's your favorite part of the job? And it really is working with the players. I mean, I love working with players. So, in many ways, the helmets off strategy was about getting behind the things that players really cared about and having them be the voice, the face of the league. And that's really helped us put a more human expression or more human brand voice that is, I think, really paid off. And what's key to that, of course, is understanding these players and really taking the time to get to know them and what they do care about. And one of the things I definitely appreciate about Glenn and the guys over at 72 is that they also care about getting to know the players, right? They want to know, we create these strong relationships and strong bonds. So again, there's trust there. So it's not just a transactional thing going on. It's actually a true partnership. And a lot of the players that are in our ads, they deeply care about the things that the ads that they're in. So the ones who are in that ad that you just saw there, they all work with youth organized programs, and they wanted to be a part of that, right? And so this next ad you'll see, it's a little different because, but it is really because they care about Girls Flag, right? Everybody who was in there really cared about Girls Flag. Sometimes we have players play themselves, and then every so often we'll have players play like people in disguise. And we went all the way on this one. So all the players who are in there, all the stars, the sports stars are all authentic girls and women flag players, not just in the U.S., but around the world. But the players, the NFL players in the spot, are actually in disguise. Some of them are literally like fat suits and bald heads and mustaches and you name it. And our fans are going to have a lot of fun figuring out who these guys are. So we're
only playing the teaser, heads up.
The teasers that we're going to show you right now.
They're not going to see the athletes.
I'll tell you what, we won't tell you who it is. You guys try to figure out who it is. And then we'll see how good you are.
This is the first time you ever did any acting outside of a show. Okay, there's a hint.
Attention students, this is your principal speaking. Flag football is now a girls' varsity sport. Tryouts after school. Magic happening everywhere. Because of who? Me.
Name that person.
All right, that's the first one.
Okay, thank you, McAfee.
Who is it?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, Pat McAfee.
It's Pat McAfee. Pat, of course, was a punter and is now one of the best ESPN sports analysts that are out there. He has a huge following. But this is the first commercial he's ever done. I mean, the guy rocked it, all right? Like, he did a really, really good job. But let's show the other one.
Shut up. Touchdown!
You can tell there he's got "kick me" on his back. So when you see the 2-minute ad, you'll understand what that's all about.
So good. We literally have like 2 minutes, so we're gonna do one real quick.
Questions or no?
We're gonna do. You want to do questions?
I don't know. Does anybody have a burning question?
All right, I'll do a quick question.
All right, Matt.
Being a field producer, this happens to us quite a bit. But what's your scariest moment working together? When was that moment you're like, holy shit, this is not going to happen? But then maybe in your finest hour, it did happen.
When there's a scene in that first sizzle reel where you saw a boy run onto the field at the Super Bowl. Our second Super Bowl ad, we had a kid run around the country and hand the game ball to the referee live. It was a live integration. That was absolutely the most horrifying moment. 32 kids in a tunnel, all of whom are just like super distracted. We'd never rehearsed it well once. They've all fell down. One kid was crying.
We only got 3 shots to rehearse it.
We're like, you got to get the crowd hyped, and they didn't know what to do, so they looked like they were flapping like birds, and then we're about to go, and Shaq walks by in the tunnel. Tim and I are in the tunnel with them. We're like, guys, are you ready? They're like, it's Shaq. I'm like, you guys.
Because one kid started crying. He was so freaked out. He just started crying, like, oh my God.
Oh, but Shaq got him to stop crying. That's right. He saw Shaq
got him to stop crying.
And then I was like, okay, we're good to go. And then it worked. I was just like, please don't fall down. But yeah, and I think I literally like at halftime had to go to a private. My wife was with me, and I think I cried. I was like, it happened.
Yeah, that was really, really scary. And we had to convince the Fox guy, the cameraman, we didn't want the camera to come zooming in, on the whatever, the wire. That's the way he wanted to do it because that was the safest way to do it. And ultimately, it's his decision. It's not ours, right? Because it was live and Fox owned it, right? So, but I'm like, no, that's not going to be a good enough shot. You want to feel the kid coming right at you. You want all these kids that coming right at you. So we wanted him standing there with that thing on, to like the camera, and we want him to back up. He's like,
running.
I ain't doing that. Like, I'm not backing up these kids. I'm going to fall on my back. They're going to trample me. I'll never hear the end of it. I'm not doing it. Like, you got to do it. Like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, Peter, he's got to do it, right? Like, no, he doesn't have to. But you sure you won't do it? Basically, for 3 hours before at the game, at the Super Bowl, I'm like writing, I'm calling, I'm sending texts about, he's got to do it, he's got to do it, he's got to do it. We didn't know he was going to actually do it and actually run backwards literally until the spot ran. And Glenn and I were out on the field watching it, and it's like, he's going to do it. And he did, and it went off perfectly. The kids did it perfectly. The cameraman did it perfectly. I mean, so yeah, that was pretty scary.
That's great.
Yeah, kids.
Well, hey guys, Tim and Glenn, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
Big round for these.
Thank you for coming out today, you guys.
Have a great week, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.